violence that sets men apart. It is the distance that he is prepared to go.
Hi everybody, I'm Danny Perry. I'm with MMASSmedia. I'm here with Trent Standing of Split Decision, and we're here to talk about and go over the card for the Rumble at the Roseland 69. It's going to be next weekend in Portland, Oregon at the Roseland Theater. Fights start at 7 o'clock. Tickets are on sale now. It's a show that you're not going to want to miss. We're going to be going over the fight card, and we've got special guest Kevin Keeney to help us out and as we review the fights. Trent, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on this card.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Danny, this card looks really good. I'm excited about a lot of these fights, especially the heavyweight fight between Paul Sims and Tyree Fortune. A lot of it's on the line there. You know, anyone who's from the Northwest knows that 503 and Live MMA have quite a long-standing rivalry. This is two of their big guys going head-to-head. Paul Sims, really impressive record, very big, very strong. Tyree Fortune came in and upset the Giant here last time at the Roseland. And, of course, the girls, Katie Howard and Kyra Batara. We saw her last time in there. That's going to be a fantastic fight. I am really excited for this show to pop off.
You know, we have Kevin Keeney on the phone here. I'd like to hear from him. Kevin, this is one of the fights, or one of the cards that you chose to headline the female fighters. The FCFF is leading the way in putting some of the top female talent, not just in our area, but really we've got some top girls throughout the nation that compete on a national level. What made you decide to put girls as headliners?
The fans response. The fans seem to be excited to see the girl fights, and our job is twofold. Our job is, one, to provide opportunity for these fighters to compete as amateurs and build up their records, and then hopefully give them an opportunity to go pro and extend their MMA careers to follow their dreams if that's what they wish to do. That's the first thing with it. And the second thing is we want to give the fans what they want. So we, as a company, have heard from the fans and through various forums, and they enjoy the girl fights. And I think MMA, women's MMA is growing for sure right now. So it just makes sense to you know, if it's a matchup that's worth it, let's put it as a main event of the headline fight.
I couldn't agree more. I appreciate it. You know, the men fights are obviously great. They exude all kinds of power and skill. When the females fight, they tend to fight with a little more, I don't know if it's more technique, but they tend to rely less on strength. So they use jits in a lot of different ways, and they can get pretty creative, and it's definitely great. Anyhow, you guys ready to go over the card?
Yeah, let's hit it.
Okay, let's start at the bottom. We got a few people who aren't pictured, and we'll start with the folks that are pictured. Let's take a look here. We've got Louis Duran versus Chad Copperman. Is that a fight? Oh, go ahead.
Well, you know, those two, I don't know Chad very well. He's never fought for me. I think he fought for us before, but it's a long time ago. Both of those guys, I'm just not sure on. And what I mean by that is, you know, they want to be fighters. They want to fight. Yet they're, you know, I talk to their coaches, and their coaches say, well, they don't see them in the gym. Do you got your blood work done? Do you have your blood work done? Well, you know, I'm hoping to get it done next week. This, that, and the other. Then you see on Facebook, you know, somebody has, you know, it's a Saturday night, it's 1 week before their fight, and their picture on Facebook is a picture of a bottle of rum, and it's about, they tell you it's about to go down tonight. So it's like, all right, well, are they really going to fight or not if they're going to get, you know, drink a fifth of rum a week before their fight? So I don't know if those two guys, they both are just hard to communicate with. We'll see if that fight happens.
Well, at least it'll be even, right? If they're both training on the same level, it might be a good fight.
Right. And hopefully me giving them a hard time will want them to prove me wrong and they'll show up and fight.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. All right, moving on to the next fight. We got Daniel Muller, I hope I'm saying that right, out of Salem, Oregon, versus Aiden Suarez and out of Team Quest. Trent, what do you think about these two guys?
Well, I've seen Suarez before. He fought over in Vancouver, and he is a tough kid, undefeated. At that time I saw him, he was undefeated, very tough, beat a Brave Legion kid, actually, if I remember right. And to beat a Brave Legion kid doesn't happen very much. Matter of fact, I think Brave Legion's lost 2 fights out of like 110 amateur fights, if you can believe that. And so for him to pull off one of those wins against a Brave Legion kid speaks volumes about him.
Kevin, what do you think about these two guys?
It's a fight I wanted to see. It's not going to happen.
Oh, okay. I just want to point out quickly to people who are watching this, this time of year, there's a lot of flu going around, a lot of people who get sick, a lot of people who find it hard to get to the gym during the winter months, especially around the holidays, which is right where we're at. And so this card's probably had a little more changes involved in it than probably what, Kevin, you'd like to see. But I'm still amazed at your ability to put together a great card. I want to point out that we've got 3 title fights. A heavyweight title fight, a super heavyweight title fight, and the headline fight between Kyra Batara and at the 115 pounds.
And Danny, it's not just that with the sickness. A lot of the fighters will take off typically it's between Thanksgiving and New Year's off, but especially from Christmas to New Year's. And it's hard to go from, drink vacation time, drinking, being out of shape, as far as what the fighters consider themselves not in fight shape during those 2, 3, 4 weeks, even back to, Thanksgiving, and go, okay, I'm ready to jump right back in the cage. A lot of these guys take this serious, and it's hard to get them to commit to something that soon after New Year's. And Kevin had a tough job ahead of him booking this card, but you're right. Phenomenal, the upper-level fights on this card, and some of the new talent, fresh talent here is going to be good to see.
Yeah, and I meant to say, I drew a blank for a second, but Katie Howard, I cannot wait to see this fight between Kyra Batara, who's an upcoming talented, and Katie Howard, who, again, another phenomenal fighter. So Daniel Muller, Aiden Suarez, not going to happen. That puts us up to Grant Harmon of Team Quest and Zane Robinson out of Eugene, Oregon. Kevin, is that fight still on?
That fight is 100% go. And I've heard good things about Zane. And I got to tell you, Grant Harmon is 0-1. But he was in a fight a few months back, and he got an early stoppage. I'm not arguing with the referee. But I kind of felt like usually when fighters get stopped and then they argue with the referee, it only looks bad to the fighter for arguing. But in that case, I kind of felt like he had a legitimate argument, like he kind of got stopped a little early. So, Grant Harmon can fight. He's a tough kid, and I am excited to see him go against Zane Robinson. Zane, I just heard Trent talking about Brave Legion. And how Brave Legion doesn't lose many fights. Well, Zane's training under Jason Georgiana down there at Art of War, and Art of War does not lose many fights. I mean, Jason won't put a guy on a card unless he has been training diligently. So I am excited about that fight.
Oh, that's a good point. I was getting ready to ask where he trains out of, and you're right. Jason's a very strict coach down there out of Eugene, and all of his fighters are tough. And I that's a huge credit to Jason Georgiana.
And I know that Zane is training there, but he's not training enough for him to represent Art of War. I mean, he's training a lot, but I mean, you have to be there like twice a day for a month to take a fight under Art of War. I mean, they are just very diligent in their demands to represent them at a fight.
You know, that you bring up a good point. I'm not sure all of our viewers know that, but when clubs go out there and compete in a competitive environment, that's the name, their brand that's on the line. And so if they put out fighters that aren't ready and they lose fights, that reflects on them. It affects their business and their ability to increase membership and get people to train at their gyms. So it's a really good point. Bout number 10, John Baker versus Nelson Hernandez out of LA Boxing. And John Baker is fighting for Sports Lab. Trent, tell us what you think about this matchup.
Baker's great. You know, he's one of the guys that I like to watch fight. He's one of those guys that when he steps in the cage, I kind of like to kick back and just observe. High energy, very scrappy. We just saw him rematch Zane Beren. And for those of you that weren't there at the last Rumble of the Roseland to see that fight, you were missing out. They looked like two alley cats rolling around fighting. And it was one of the highest paced fights I've ever seen. And usually you expect that type of thing out of 130-pounders. But for a guy as athletic and big as he is, it was really, he's just a pleasure to watch. He's one of my, what I would consider, I'm one of his fan favorites. I like to watch that kid fight. And that doesn't matter who he's fighting, it's going to be a good fight.
Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about the matchup from your end?
You know, I agree with Trent. I mean, John Baker is on the rise. You know, the one thing I like about him is he won that last fight he just had, and after he won, he was disappointed in his performance. He got a first-round stoppage over Zane Beren, but he just didn't perform up to his liking. He had very high standards for himself, and he wants to go far in the sport. He's over there at Sports Lab, and I think he's in the right place. Ever since he's been with Sports Lab, he just looks like a whole different fighter. And I think you got that Nelson Hernandez, who has an impressive record. Nelson Hernandez is like 8-2 right now. So this is a good fight on paper. My gut tells me that maybe John Baker maybe is a slight favorite, but anything can happen. And I know Nelson Hernandez thinks he's supposed to win. When you got two guys that think they're supposed to win, that's usually when you have the best fights.
Oh yeah, both these guys won it too. Can you talk a little bit about the styles of fighting? I know that John Baker, he's pretty well rounded. He has a great ground game. He was able to submit Zane Beren, who's known as a striker. Tell us a little bit about their styles and how you think they're going to match up style-wise.
I think John Baker can fight from anywhere. You know, he's been pretty good on stand-up. He's been pretty good in jiu-jitsu. He's got a lot better in jiu-jitsu since he's been at Sports Lab. And he's got decent wrestling. So I think John Baker is one of those fighters that maybe he's not dominant in one aspect of the fight game, but he is good at all of them. Where Nelson Hernandez is a lot the same, man. Nelson's a lot of a dirty boxer type, and he'll get in there and mix it up. And I'll tell you, from what I know about Nelson, he will fight. He's not one of these guys that's got to have 4 good weeks of training and he's got to feel 100%. He's got to have his mom there and this and that. He doesn't have. If you offer him a fight, he'll fight. He's a fighter, and we're losing a little bit of that in the sport. I'll tell you that right now. But they're not like Trent. You know, I saw Trent on Facebook the other day talking about somebody not taking the fight for the heavyweight title. Back in Trent's day, it was an honor to be offered the heavyweight title. It didn't matter if you were ready or not. You would take the title opportunity. And we're missing some of that nowadays. But Nelson Hernandez brings us back to the old school, and I like it.
Well, all right, I can't wait to see that fight. You know, you make a good point with that. You know, you see that not just in the low. It's interesting. Let me back up for a second. We see that a lot in the higher ranks. You talk about you know, John Jones not stepping up to take a fight against Chael, and what I hear you saying is that we actually have that now at the local amateur level, which is surprising to me because, you know, the amateurs fighting is about getting better. It's about improving your skill, and you know, amateur records. If you have aspirations to make it to the higher levels and turn pro, you know, your amateur record is expunged. So it's too bad that we see people, you know, maybe not necessarily stepping up to take fights as much. Trent, what's your experience with that? You do a lot of matchmaking as well.
On a personal note, like Kevin said, back in the day, you didn't turn down a fight. I mean, there was a guy named DeLon Williams who had knocked 8 people out before I fought him with 8 punches, believe it or not. And I was chomping at the bit to get in the cage with him. And, you know, then it was different. Fighters fought because they wanted the challenge. Now, there isn't quite as many people that want that. Now fighters fight because they want to have the record. Fighters are more cautious. Maybe the bright side of that is, yeah, they're looking forward. They want to go to the UFC and they want their path plated in gold on, you know, the highway to the riches. It doesn't really work like that. You got to get in. You got to get your hands dirty. You got to lose. As an amateur, you got to lose to learn. It's just a fact of life. You lose more when you learn than what you do when you win. I don't know. It's Kevin kind of said, you know, I don't like the guys that are really cautious and really want to pick and choose their fights. I don't like it because that's not my personality. I like the guys that will say, Kevin Keeney, I'll be there to fight. At the next Rumble, you put whoever you want to put in front of me and I'll fight him. That's just my style.
Well,
yeah, guys, I'm not trying to talk down on anybody or anything. All I'm saying is, even guys that have made it to the UFC, Chris Lieben, Ed Herman, Josh Hayes, all these guys, Chael Sonnen, that have fought in the FCFF and are now in the big show. These guys didn't back down from the fight. They didn't say, oh, well, I'll take this way. No, I won't. I mean, they fought whoever we offered them to fight. So I see what Trent's saying, and Trent's right on. But what people need to understand is that doesn't necessarily mean that because you have a great record and you pick and choose your fight, that's going to allow you to get where you need to be. The guys have laid a path that took any fight, anywhere, anytime. And had to have some upsets to do it, and got to the big show because of it. So, you know, life's about making choices, and life's about risk. And, you know, these guys took risk, and for a while, it paid off.
I think you hit the nail right on the head. And speaking of fighters, Nate Cook is very impressive. Only seen him fight the one time, and man, he looks good. Well, that leads us to bout number 11 at the 205-pound weight class with Nate Cook out of Rochester, New York, versus Emmanuel Camarata. Camarata? Am I saying that correctly? Out of Team Quest. Camarata.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about that matchup, Kevin.
You know, I'm very excited about this matchup. Both of them look like $1 million. I mean, they're just ripped. And so they're just great athletes. Emmanuel is supposed to be very, very tough. He's training at Team Quest now. He does have a record on the ABC. You know, it says that this is a debut fight, but according to Emmanuel, he's had 6 other fights and he's 6-0. Nate Cook is the FCFF fighter to look forward to or fighter to watch for 2013. I mean, he was so impressive on December 15th that as we voted him the fighter to watch this upcoming year. So, you know, it should be fireworks when these guys get in the cage. And I got to be honest with you, the way these guys throw punches and throw kicks, we are probably looking at a fight that lasts 60 seconds or less.
Wow, what are your thoughts, Trent?
You know, like Kevin said, Nate is tough. We saw him last show. He comes in, but we only had a minute picture of him. So, you know, big questions. Yeah, he looked really well, but can he go into the second round, third round? Is he going to have to go? Like Kevin said, Kevin's predicting another early fight. Is he going to have to go into the second, third round? It's really easy to do things right and make those right decisions for a minute. Let's take him into the second round, third round. Hopefully, I hope these two stay in. I hope it goes to a decision with these two because Kevin's right. Both these guys have big hands. I hope they stay on their feet and give the crowd a show.
Oh yeah, well, that's definitely one to watch. Which leads us on to our next fight. What are we at? We're at bout 12 at the 135-pound weight class. We have David Maglian out of LA Boxing, and boy, I'm going to massacre these names. Ermis Giannis out of Team Quest. Kevin, you're really good at pronouncing these names. I don't know how you do it. You can correct me on the pronunciation. Tell us about this fight.
Both guys making their MMA debuts. I don't know a whole lot about David other than he's at LA Boxing, trained under Ryan Healy. And Ermis Giannis is he's a Russian, actually, and who lives now in America. Finished high school down at North Salem High School. He now wrestles at Clackamas Community College. But only wrestled for a few years. And it's kind of funny, him and Brogan have just kind of become real, like, best buds. And they've decided to jump into the fight game together. So, I don't know a lot about it, but it should be a good fight.
Well, fighting out of Team Quest, you know he's going to come prepared. And you talked a little bit about his fighting partner, so that's going to definitely be one to watch. Trent, your thoughts?
Like Kevin said, Giannis is out of Team Quest, not only Team Quest, but out of Clackamas Community College, and that's a very disturbing trend for the people that are opposite corner of these guys that are now starting to come out of Clackamas Community College wrestling program. We've seen a couple of them in here. Last one that we saw was the heavyweight Mitchell in there, who was undefeated in the Slammer, got his first loss not too long ago against Rico Martinez, who had 5 times the fight as the number of fights, and basically just out-experienced him in a stand-up 5-round slug out across the border. A lot of tough kids are starting to come out of there now, and Team Quest is the perfect home for them. I mean, there's nowhere better in the world to go to transition a wrestler into mixed martial artist than Team Quest. It's just the way it is. They cook or cut made for Team Quest. And LA Boxing, another one of those gyms that we've talked about. Healy's doing a very good job with those guys. They're not just boxers. You think LA Boxing, they're stand-up guys. They're not. They're very competent on the ground. They're very good on their feet. And they're very good in transition. It's going to be a good fight.
All right. Okay, well, that takes us up to the super heavyweight. I'm going to go ahead and switch here. We got a picture of these guys we can show everybody. We've got Brandon Flint out of Aloha, Oregon versus Ricky Alcaraz. And tell us a little bit about this matchup, Kevin.
You know, Ricky has surprised me beyond belief. He just is a gamer. You know, he doesn't look pretty when he's out there. Maybe not real technical, but he just fights away. I've been real impressed with Ricky. Brandon Flint, he's 1-0. Fought earlier in 2012 in our show, and you know, he stepped up to fight Ricky Alcaraz. We don't have a lot of super heavyweights out there, so getting Ricky's fights isn't easy, but he stepped up to do it. So anytime a guy says, "Hey, I'll go," you know, like the olden days, we were just talking about, "Hey, I will go fight for the title. I'll go win it." That usually makes for a great fight.
All right, let's take a second real quick and watch a clip. I've got a clip here of Ricky Alcaraz. I keep saying it wrong. Ricky Alcaraz looks like he's just beating up on Ernesto Duran. That was a tough fight. Ernesto Duran's a real tough competitor. Ricky Alcaraz was able to put a body on him, and he TKO'd him, looks like, in the second round. Do you remember that fight, Kevin?
Absolutely, yes.
That was... Boy, was that Rumble at the Roseland? Do you remember what number that was?
66.
It was in the summer. It was this past summer.
Boy, it's hard to keep track of him. Yeah, he's a big boy.
That was Rumble to Roseland 66. He won the belt versus Ernesto Duran, 52 seconds in round number 2, with technical knockout punches, if I remember right. Very good fight.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah, we've got a clip here also. Let's see if we can't get this one to play a little quicker, of Brandon Flint. Okay, hang on a second here. Sorry for taking so long here. Looks like Brandon Flint defeated Nathaniel Huguet back in Rumble at the Roseland 60, TKO round number 1 at 1 minute and 48 seconds. Another big boy able to throw down. These two, it ought to be a great matchup.
Yeah, the kind of one of the keys here, Danny, on paper anyway, both these guys like to strike, but I'll tell you, Brandon Flint is 6'4", and he walks around 275 last, versus Ricky's 5'10", 345. So, you know, Brandon has about 6 inches on him, and it looks like even more because he's one of those guys that look like he has a lot longer reach than what, you know, his height would dictate. But on the other, you know, the other side of the coin, Ricky is just a little wrecking ball. If these guys keep it stood up, I'm going to give, you know, the benefit of the doubt to Brandon Flint. 6 inches is a lot of reach, but if Ricky can get a hold of him and maul him and get in like what he likes to get in, Ricky's going to go home again with another belt.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I think Ricky Alcaraz is just way underrated. I just think fighters think, you know, people watch him fight, and I go, well, I'll take that fight. And then they get in there against him and just a whole new world. I just think he's underrated. I think he's too big for Brandon Flint, and you know, we'll see. I'm not telling you who's going to win, but I just think that Ricky Alcaraz has it. He just has it. He may not have the reach. He may not have the height. He may not have the training background, but he has it. And I just wouldn't bet against him.
That's going to be one to watch for sure. Real interesting to see if Ricky Alcaraz is going to be able to take Brandon Flint down to the ground. The way I got this, I think it could go either way based on what I've seen from both of them. But I feel like if Ricky Alcaraz can take Brandon Flint, then he's going to win this fight. And if Brandon Flint can keep it standing, then he's going to win this fight. But it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
Sure. Yeah.
And I would not count on this fight going to the second round. Both these guys have good hands, and I will say this: I think if we go round, I'm going to give Brandon Flint a little bit of the nod on it. But Ricky's going to come out and try and close him out in round number 1.
Tough matchup. That leads us up to, at the 170-pound weight class, we have Tyrell Pless out of Beaverton, Oregon versus Rafael Palma out of Team Quest. And Kevin, you want to talk about this matchup?
Yes, I'm so excited to get Rafael Palma back into the FCFF. He's had a little bit of a layoff from our show, and he's just super exciting. You know, I think he's around 42, 43 years old. Has a heart of gold. He's always smiling. He's one of the nicest people nicest human beings I've ever been around. You know, if you just went on personality, you would think that him and Enoch Wilson were brothers. Anyhow, just happy to have Rafael back, and he's fighting Tyrell Pless. And the one thing I will say about Tyrell is he will fight. I mean, that referee says fight, and Tyrell's there to fight. He's not there to take you down and lay on you. He's not there to circle him back up. He is out there to throw bombs and to knock you out. He always puts on a good show, win or lose. I'm excited for the fight. I know Tyrell is a losing record coming in, and Rafael's 3-0. But if you look at who their opponents have been, it's a lot closer fight than the records say. And in reality, Rafael may be on paper the underdog.
Trent, what do you think?
Exactly what Kevin said, plus I want to add something. Not too long ago, Tyrell Pless fought another kid from Team Quest named Zach Miller, who was 3-0. Zach Miller, at that time, in my mind and a lot of other people's, he was the person to beat. You might as well have just walked up and put a championship belt around his waist. He was very, very good. I saw Zach Miller versus Tyrell Pless, and I went, wow, this is going to be a rock'em, sock'em, banging. Tyrell Pless came out, I forget, let me look what the official was, 8 seconds and knocked him out. Tyrell Pless has very big hands. He's known as the Team Quest killer. He can come out here. Rafael is an awesome dude, like Kevin said. He's always happy. He's one of those guys that you enjoy sharing the warm-up room in. You enjoy rooting for him to win just because he's such a good guy. But I'll tell you what, he gets hit by Tyrell Pless, and he's going to know he got hit. And maybe there's a little bit of hard feelings still from the Team Quest camp. I don't know. Maybe, but Tyrell Pless, kicked off one train off the rails to championship belt, and maybe he'll do it again.
Well, I have to tell you that Rafael Palma is always a guy that I love to watch fight. He's really impressive. He's about my age, so whenever I watch him, I'm always amazed at his cardio. Watching him go the distance in a fight, and he does it with a lot of energy. He throws a lot of punches, and he's able to keep the pace. Personally, I think he's a phenomenal fighter, especially given his age gap. Really looking forward to this fight, and it's going to be a close one. Well, let's talk about Paul Sims fighting for the heavyweight title. There's a lot of things to talk about with this fight. He's going to be fighting Tyree Fortune out of Alive MMA. Paul fights for 503 West Coast Jiu-Jitsu. Trent, tell us about this fight.
This fight's now one of those fights. I'm in the fight scene a lot. I'll look at a card and go, wow, a lot of the times, but there's very rarely is there a fight that actually excites me that I can't wait until it's time so I can see it. This is one of those fights. Paul Sims is absolutely electric. He made his debut across the river about 3 years ago now, I think, and he fought another guy that's fought in the FCFF quite a bit, Josh Ryan. Came out, absolutely beat the tar out of Josh Ryan for a round and a half. From there on out, Josh Ryan beat the tar out of him for the other remainder of the thing, and Paul Sims got the split decision win on that. Since then, Paul has decided he's going to get in, trying to get some cardio, but he just keeps getting bigger and bigger and tougher. He's an absolute workhorse. The guy spends 3 to 4 hours a day in the gym, weightlifting, sparring, doing CrossFit, everything he can do. When he comes out, he is absolutely one thing on his mind, and that's take you down and punch a hole in your face. Mr. Fortune, I've seen him fight too, both of his fights. The last time we saw him in the FCFF was last show versus the great big giant Jimmy Jennett. What a fight that was. He came out with a perfect strategy to run away from Jennett, to pick his encounters with Jennett, step in, throw a couple punches, land, and get back out before Jennett could club him with his caveman fists. And he did a very good job with that game plan. The big question here is he going to be able to run from Paul Sims and get away from Paul Sims those first 3 rounds? And if not, it could be bad news for him. We're going to be able to see, how good Tyree is on his back, blocking great big punches coming down on him. And I'll tell you what, I spar with Paul Sims on the regular. He is an absolute handful. He's only 220 pounds, but he throws me around like I'm a little 135-pounder. The guy is so strong, it's not even funny. If Paul gets a hold of him, it's not going to be good news for him. You're in a cage. There's not very many places you can run. It's gonna. I just can't wait for this fight. This is gonna be another one of those fights that I can't wait for.
Kevin, tell us about it from your perspective.
I just think that I think Tyree's slick. I've never seen Paul fight, actually. I just heard a lot of great things about him from Trent and everybody. So I mean, he obviously deserves a title fight. He's 9-2, and he's worked his way up. But Tyree Fortune, he impressed me that last night against Jimmy Jennett. He was a lot slicker and a lot tougher than I thought he would be. If everything that Trent's saying about Paul is true, and everything I think about Tyree Fortune is true, this one could be a classic.
I got to point out, too, that Tyree took the fight against Jimmy Jennett on fairly short notice, if I have that correct. Is that true?
That is true, man. Tyree's a fighter.
And he still came out and impressed everybody. So I got to throw this out there. If Paul Sims is able to defeat Tyree for the title, I got to throw this out there. Josh Ryan has been wanting revenge on that decision for a long time. Would you consider giving Josh Ryan a title, a shot at the title against Paul Sims if Paul Sims was able to win?
We'll see. And here's why. I offered the fight to Josh Ryan before Tyree, and for some reason he couldn't take it. So, this just kind of been the story of my MMA life the last year or so. Like, well, I don't want to do it now, but how about in a month? And then in a month it never happens, and this and that. And we'll see. I just have to, I got to be careful with my words here, but I just have to sometimes not jump ahead. I can't just be promising people, 2 or 3 fights down the road, I'll keep in this fight no matter what, because things change. And new guys show up, and just like this Nate Cook at 205, he just looks fantastic. And I got to put the fighters out that the fans want to see, and that are the best matchups. And after January 19th, I will reevaluate. And if Josh Ryan versus Paul Sims is the best matchup for both of them, whether it's for a title or not, I'll put the fight together. But I'm not willing at this point to say, yeah, for sure, 100%, Josh Ryan could fight Paul Sims next, because the fight was offered to him, and he couldn't take it. Now, I guess he had a cut or something, and that's the way it goes sometimes, but, things change.
Well, you make a good point, and I guess that just underscores what we were talking about a little bit earlier about fighters. When you get the opportunity to take a fight, you got to step up and take it. There are no guarantees in this sport. You don't know that you're going to get the matchup. You never know. It's like leaving a fight to the judges. You never know what the decision is going to be. At the end of the day, when you get the opportunity, you got to make the most of it. It's a real good point. And also, I'd like to point out that that's a big if, because Tyree Fortune is no joke. And so that's definitely going to be a fight to watch. And I couldn't even begin to call that fight. You know, Paul Sims is a monster. I've had the opportunity of seeing him fight. But Tyree Fortune just looks like a really good athlete. He looks like somebody who trains really smart. And both these guys train for top gyms and, you know, Alive MMA and 503 West Coast Jiu-Jitsu. They do nothing but put out top fighters, and their fighters compete on a regular basis. So I can't say enough about those guys.
Yeah, and you're also looking at Tyree coming from Alive MMA. The blueprints to beat Paul Sims, we've seen it. We've seen Ray Garcia do it down in, I think it was Knucklehead. We've seen Hamza Salim do it from Brave Legion. The way to beat Paul Sims is to greyhound him and run him out of steam and try and take advantage of him in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round. Paul Sims, I was just sparring with Paul Sims the other day. He did 8 rounds, almost full steam. I think Alive MMA is going to come into this fight thinking that they can really greyhound and run out the steam out of the engine of Paul Sims. You know, Nick Gilardi's an expert at game plans. He's one of those guys that always has great game plans for the Alive MMA guys, and it's really contributed to their success. But I'm anxious to see if they do go with the greyhound game and if they can run Paul Sims out of energy before Paul Sims gets a hold of Tyree and, you know, punches a hole through his face.
Yeah, that's going to be really great to see. Again, it's going to be a tough one to call. You can get your tickets at the FCFF.com. You guys aren't going to want to miss this. It's one of the title fights, fighting for the heavyweight title, left vacant by another Alive fighter, in Nick Byron. Has anybody heard about Nick Byron and what his plans are next?
Nick's following some injuries, and as soon as he gets his shield up, he's going to go back and defend his light heavyweight championship for the FCFF.
Well, that'll be another one to watch for. And that leads us to our headline bout between 150-pound title fight between Katie Howard of Girls Gym and Kyra Batara, fighting out of Animal House under Enoch Wilson. And boy, I tell you what, that Kyra Batara was impressive. I was really impressed in her debut fight against Julia Jones, who was another outstanding competitor. That fight did not disappoint. And Katie Howard, who fought also at Rumble 68 and in a tough battle with Amanda Lowen. We've seen Katie pull out wins. She's also a skilled fighter. She's going to be dropping some weight to compete at the lower weight class. Kevin, you want to lead us off on this?
You know what? This was a great fight. It is just it's a main event all over it. Kyra Batara is a fantastic wrestler who was transferred over to the MMA game very easily and well. But the one thing I will say is Katie Howard, she'll fight. Katie Howard's last fight on December 15th was at 135 pounds against Amanda Lowen. Katie Howard weighed in at about 126, and Amanda cut down to 135, probably from like 140, 145. So there's about a 20-pound difference. Katie Howard gets the opportunity to fight Kyra Batara for the 115-pound championship. She said, I'll take it. All cut of weight. It's a title fight. I'm in. And it was like on 2.5, 3 weeks notice. So, you know, Katie Howard's a fighter, and she expects to win. So she's very dangerous. Kyra, maybe everybody's talking about Kyra because of her wrestling background, which they should be. But don't think that Kyra Batara just has this one in the bag. Katie Howard is going to come out to fight, and she's going to push the pace. And I love the way Katie Howard fights. She doesn't back down from anybody.
Trent, you're up.
Kevin said this is a great fight. You know, Howard versus Amanda Lowen. Kevin said there was 20 pounds there. That would it seems I was telling people I thought it was more like 30 to 40 pounds. Katie Howard was dwarfed by Amanda Lowen, and basically if you saw that fight, Lowen would come out, grab her, She was just physically stronger. She was taller, which gave her a lot of leverage. She would get on top of Katie Howard, and Katie Howard wouldn't take any real damage on the ground to speak of. But you could just tell Amanda was too heavy for her. But in the third round, Katie Howard didn't give up. Katie Howard kept her head in the entire fight. In the third round with, I don't know, a minute, 45 seconds, 30 seconds, Katie Howard got on top and started dropping bombs on Amanda. That fight out. Kevin mentioned her wrestling. She's also very good at jiu-jitsu. I talked to her last time she fought there. She goes down and trains personally with Eddie Bravo. The girl is slick on the ground, and as we saw the last time she fought too, makes very quick, very smart transitions. She always seems to end up in a very good position because she makes smart decisions during those very rapid transitions. And the only time you're going to get that is if you have an extensive wrestling background or spent a lot of time on the mat with jiu-jitsu. But here again, Katie Howard is not new to the jiu-jitsu game either. Katie Howard likes to strike. The big question in this, in my mind, how does Batara react to really getting socked up like what Katie Howard can land leather? We haven't really seen it yet. If Howard can land leather on, we might see a whole nother Batara, and Katie Howard, like Kevin said, might go home with the strap that night.
Yeah, this bout, I'm really can't wait to see it. Katie Howard is tough. I agree with everything that you said, and Kyra is also a tough competitor. So she's going to get tested. I mean, Katie is a tough competitor, but Julia Jones was tough too. Kevin, what do you think about that? Given how Kyra was able to dominate Julia Jones, another tough fighter, how do you think she matches up against Katie Howard?
I think it's a good matchup for Kyra. I mean, I think it's a good matchup for both of them, to be honest with you. I mean, I think it's just whoever executes their game plan better will win. I think if Kyra can keep the space and then blast her double leg and get the fight to the ground, I think she'll be real successful. If she lets Katie Howard close the distance and get in a clinch and make it kind of a dirty boxing type deal, then I think that's who's the key. So I think it's a good fight for both of them. I think it's just whoever executes their game plan and initiates it first and then sticks with it will win the fight.
One other thing I'd like to point out is that in the last fight against Julia Jones, Kyra, most of the fight was on the ground. It looked like Julia Jones was a pretty accomplished striker, and Kyra was able to dominate on the ground. But I've had the opportunity to watch Kyra a little bit, and she's got some power behind those punches. It'll be real interesting to see if she can stand up with Katie. I think Katie is a phenomenal fighter and would probably have the edge in the stand-up. But Kyra is not a joke. She's got some power in those punches, and it'll be really interesting to see how it goes. Again, can't wait. What a great matchup.
I agree.
Well, that about sums it up for the card. And I know that there's going to be a few shifts, and the undercard, we didn't cover all the great fights that are going to be on the undercard, and we just hit a few highlights here. But wow, it's just going to be a really awesome event. Trent, you want to close out your thoughts on overall on the card?
Like I said, this card, the main reason, I'm not going to lie, the main reason is the heavyweight fight. But the girl fight is that the girl main event is going to be a very good fight. And a lot of these, obviously the super heavyweight fight, I love those because those are basically the muscle cars version of fighters. It's going to be a very quick fight, I think, that's going to end very brutally. But there's a lot of fights on the undercard that I'm also very excited to see on this. And another great card put together by Kevin.
Great job, Kevin. Thanks for all that you do in putting together Great fights and great matchups. Not just once in a while, but every month. Every month, the FCFF puts on really the top show in the state of Oregon, and the FCFF is known really worldwide for amateur mixed martial arts. It's one of the most successful amateur mixed martial arts promotions probably in the world. I know that's saying a lot, but if you look at you mentioned Chris Levin, Ed Herman, a bunch of other guys who've made it to the big show. Chael Sonnen, of course, who's getting ready to fight in April in a big fight against John Jones. That's a lot. That's an awful lot. Want to say thanks about that, and just your final thoughts on this card.
I just think that I think it's a great card, and we're just doing our thing with the FCFF, and it should be a great night of fights. If I was a fan, I would be at this show. There's no better place to watch fights than the Roseland Theater, and we got 16 fights on the card for you, and it'll be the best entertainment in town. I know the Blazers are hot right now, but they're not consistent, and we bring it to you every show. So.
That is definitely true. Also, Trent, you had mentioned the heavyweight fight. I have to tell you that one of my top fights I'm looking for is this female fight. I really think both these girls are phenomenal. I've had the opportunity. Female MMA is really growing. It's growing nationwide. It's growing really all over the place. We have local fighters like Lightning Liz McCarthy, who's fighting for Invicta FC. She just had a fight in Kansas City. Also Amanda Bell, who fought in that card. So there's a place for girl fighters in this sport, and it's just skyrocketing.
Yeah, and like Kevin said, this is going to be a great fight, great card to come and watch. Come and watch it. The only thing better, though, than sitting in the stands and watching these fights is to get in the cage yourself. If you go to the FCFF website, www.ff.com, you'll see a tab on the left. It says Fight Application. Fill it out. Those go to Kevin. He'll take a look at you, contact you, find a match, and put you in here so you can get down yourself.
Yeah, I just want to throw a couple things out there before we close this out. Number one, Dylan Atkinson, he announced that he's going pro. So if you've had the opportunity to watch him as an amateur, that's great. It's why you want to always head out and see these shows live and in person. Dylan is he's going to be making his switch over to pro, so we're not going to actually see him fighting amateur any longer. Also wanted to point out that February 16th for Cage Sport MMA 13 out of Tacoma, Washington, Enoch Wilson's going to be traveling up there to fight for the featherweight title. He's fighting against Drew the Eternal Fire Brokenshire, who is the current belt holder. And also we've got Trent, tell us a little bit about the upcoming event also in February put on by United Combat Sports.
United Combat Sports on February 23rd at the Salem Armory. They have their main event pro fighting Matt Slosser at 150-pound catchweight versus Dirty Phil Gebauer out of the Desert Dogs. For you that don't know, Phil Gebauer is always fun to watch. He racked up a very impressive amateur record. Slosser, if I remember right, has been out for a little while and been fairly inactive. This could be a little bit of an upset. Filthy Phil, very tough, gets right in and gets after it. Slosser, very tough. They're both very good pro level, and that's worth, honestly, I would pay money just to watch that fight. Also, in my mind, who I have ranked number 2 at 205 pounds, only because Nick Byron's such an absolute stud at number 1, but I think Ray Garcia would be the only guy to beat Nick Byron right now out at 205 pounds. Ray Garcia is fighting versus Cash Raymond at 205 pounds for the UCS championship belt. Cash Raymond's the current UCS heavyweight champion, or I'm sorry, light heavyweight champion. He comes to us from the White Buffalo Warriors. Big Medicine Will Hammond runs that group of guys, and they are mostly pros, but some amateurs, and that is going to be a very fun fight to watch. They are always game. Big name schools are going to be there. You know, we've talked about KO Fitness, Animal House, how successful they are. A lot of their guys are in it. Team Chaos, who are always tough. They always bring out Slossers from Team Chaos. They have their guys in it. Desert Dogs, been around forever. JT Taylor's the general that's going to lead those guys into war. Midtown MMA always has good showings. Alive MMA is going to be in that show. Team Quest is going to be in that show. White Buffalo Warriors, we mentioned earlier, the DFCC down there out of Roseburg, who have put guys all the way up into the UFC, has a very good mix of amateurs and pros out of their camp. Top camp guys going against other top camp guys. That's a key to success for Cage Combat 2 with another good UCS show. So I'm looking forward to it. I will definitely be there.
So you guys heard it there. You can get your tickets. They'll be available next week at UnitedCombatSports.com. You can also go to FishesFightGear.com and get tickets there. Look for those next week. I'm going to close this out with I want to list out some of the gyms who are going to be next week represented at the FCFF Rumble at the Roseland 69. Tickets are on sale now. Definitely don't want to miss this card. But we've got Animal House going to be represented there with a lot of on multiple fights. Girls Gym, 503 West Coast Jiu-Jitsu, Impact Jiu-Jitsu, Universal Fighters, Team Quest, Midtown MMA, LA Boxing, Sports Lab, Alive MMA, and that's just to name a few, and those are not in any particular order.
Wow.
Going to be a stacked card.
That's going to be a great night.
Well, Trent, thanks, and you guys can meet us back here. We're going to do this show a week from now, and we'll have results, and we'll talk about the outcome of these matchups. So thanks for joining us, everybody.
All right, Danny, I'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in.
With karate, I'll kick your ass. Hit you Tiananmen Square. Oh yeah, motherfucker, I'm gonna kick your fucking derriere. Yeah. You broke the rules. Now I pull out all your pubic hair.